What is the root issue for that hatred towards our black brothers and sisters? The Lord woke me up kind of in the middle of the night, and he answered that question. And the answer was, because they're my chosen people.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to Jerusalem with great slaughter. Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the remainder of the people. It has been estimated that over 1 million Hebrews fled into the interiors of Africa from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Hebrew slaves.
To reconnect to your history, you need to do 3 things. 1, you need to redefine who the children of Judah are according to the old references. Not from the 1900s and newer, because those books tend to have a totally, completely different history in those books. So you have to ask yourself, how did we lose this in history? How did you lose 400,000 people in history? And the reason why I say how did you lose 400,000 people in history is not in the books.
Many people in today's time, many Israelites who don't know their heritage or who they are looking back.
Now it is up to us to have eyes to see and ears to hear.
Hallelujah. Yah willing, this truth will reach the 4 corners of the earth. The undeniable truth of hundreds of thousands of black Jews in Spain and Portugal, less than 10 years before the start of the transatlantic slave trade. In the very countries who started the transatlantic slave trade. You see, in 1492, a great persecution of these black Jews broke out in Portugal by King John II. This history is undisputed. Now, historians, however, often fail to mention the old books which state that these Jews were black. They were literally called black or Negro Portuguese, which is the Portuguese word for black. Let's see what happens to these Negro Portuguese Jews just before the start of the transatlantic slave trade. The Jews and Moors in Spain, page 214. The King's Creed awoke again simultaneously with the reawakening of his greed. He issued an edict which threw even that of Torquemada in the shade. All Jewish children below 14 years of age were torn from their parents' arms, dragged into the church, baptized. Those under 3 years of age were given to Christians to receive a Christian education, or in other words, to be raised as slaves. Those between 3 and 10 years of age were put on board of a ship and conveyed to the newly discovered unwholesome island of St. Thomas, called the Isles of Perdition, which was colonized by Portuguese condemned criminals to fare there as best they could. Those between 10 and 14 years of age were sold as slaves. Then indeed the cup of their affliction was full to the brim. It was a stern truth which Lanou uttered. The Jews have experienced fully the unequal skill of the church in administering pain. Mothers cast themselves at the feet of the tyrants and pitifully begged to be taken with their babies. They were heartlessly thrust aside. Hundreds of mothers, mad with despair, ran behind the ships as they carried off the idols of their heart and perished in the waves. The serene fortitude with which the exiled people had borne such many and such grievous calamities gave way at last and was replaced by the wildest paroxysms of despair. Piercing shrieks of anguish filled the land. Childless and brokenhearted, they now sought to leave the land, but they were told that they had forfeited their right, and they were given the choice between baptism and slavery. Thousands, after enduring all that they did, after leaving their beloved Spain and all their wealth and ease, submitted to baptism now, in the hope of being reunited with their children. Thousands were sold as slaves. Yet, prior to being sold, they were submitted to tortures, cruelties, outrages too revolting, too repulsive, too heartrending to be here narrated. Now, just keep in mind that this is less than 10 years before the start of the transatlantic slave trade against the black Jews of Portugal. And it reads, "Terror seized upon the native Portuguese Jews when they helplessly beheld the cruelties to which their Spanish brethren were subjected. They knew then they themselves could not escape the wrath of the church much longer. And they thought of flight, and well had it been for them had they made their escape then. While they were making secret preparations, John II died in 1495. He had been afflicted on the very day when the ships laden with the Jewish exiled children set sail for the Isle of the condemned criminals with a strange, painful malady, and had lingered ever since. His own promising son and successor preceded him into the grave. His cousin Manuel ascended the throne. He was the counterpart of his predecessor, kind-hearted and a promoter of learning, eager to further the interests of his country by discoveries abroad and by commerce at home. Immediately, he disenfranchised the Jewish exile sold into slavery, promised to recall the condemned children, and issued an edict in which he commanded kind treatment to the Jews and prohibited accusations against them. In their great joy, the native Portuguese Jews sent an embassy to him, offering him large sums of money voluntarily as a token of their gratitude. The king thanked them, reassured them of his goodwill, but refused to be paid for human kindness. But again had destiny decreed that a woman was to play an ignoble part in the tragedy